The Deep Space Monitoring Station Horizon's Edge picked up the distress signal at 23:47 Earth Standard Time. Lieutenant Sarah Martinez watched the quantum oscillation patterns dance across her holographic display, her dark eyes narrowing as she analyzed the signature. After 15 years of scanning the void between stars, she'd never seen anything quite like it. "Captain Reynolds," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You need to see this." The station's commander materialized from his office within seconds, his weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow of the emergency frequencies. James Reynolds had commanded Horizon's Edge since humanity first pushed their monitoring stations past the Kuiper Belt, keeping watch for any signs that they weren't alone in the cosmos. "Talk to me, Lieutenant. The signal's unlike anything in our database, sir, but it's definitely artificial." Martinez manipulated the holographic display, expanding the waveform analysis, and based on the degradation pattern, whatever's generating it is dying. Reynolds studied the data, his expression grave. Humanity had spent the last century carefully hiding their technological advancement from the rest of the galaxy. They detected other civilizations decades ago, but after observing the constant warfare and conquest that defined interstellar politics, Earth's leaders had chosen isolation and secret preparation over first contact. "How far out?" "Just under 2 light hours, sir, near the L4 point of Jupiter's orbit." Reynolds ran a hand through his silver hair. "Too close to ignore. They must have suffered a critical drive failure to drop out of FTL, this deep in our system." He straightened his uniform. "Send the data to command. I'll wake the Admiral." Within 30 minutes, Admiral Helena Chen was holding an emergency meeting with the Terran Defense Council via quantum entanglement channels. The holographic faces of humanity's military and political leaders flickered around her office aboard the hidden lunar base Armstrong. "The ship appears to be Nexarian in origin," she explained, projecting the sensor data. "Based on our long-range observations, they're one of the more aggressive species in this sector. Their empire spans at least 30 star systems. Then we should destroy them before they can report our location," General Santos interjected. "We've worked too hard to keep Earth hidden." "The ship is already crippled," Admiral Chen countered, "and our scans show only 26 life signs remaining. Their core is approaching critical failure. They'll be dead within hours without our intervention." Council President Amara Patel's hologram leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing, Admiral?" "That we save them." The statement hung in the air like a physical thing. For a moment, only the soft hum of quantum computers filled the silence. "Have you lost your mind?" Santos exploded. "These aren't some peaceful explorers. The Nexarians are conquerors. We've watched them subjugate 2 civilizations in the past decade alone." "Precisely." Chen's voice was steel wrapped in silk, which is why saving them could be our greatest opportunity. She gestured, and a new set of projections appeared. Detailed analyses of Nexarian society and psychology compiled over years of covered observation. Their entire culture is built on strength and dominance. They respect power above all else. But they also have a rigid code of honor that includes repaying debts. Her dark eyes swept the assembled leaders. "If we save them, if we show them both mercy and technological capability beyond their understanding, it will shatter their worldview. Or they'll return with a fleet to enslave us," Santos growled. "They already believe this sector is empty of advanced life." Chen pressed. "Their sensors are crude compared to ours. We can rescue them while maintaining the appearance of being a young civilization that just achieved basic spaceflight. It would explain our presence while hiding our true capabilities." President Patel's hologram flickered as she turned to her military advisor. "Admiral Wong, your thoughts?" The older man stroked his chin thoughtfully. "It's a gamble. But Chen's logic is sound. The Nexarians' honor code is fundamental to their society. Being saved by a primitive species would create a debt they couldn't ignore. At minimum, it would complicate any future aggressive actions against Earth. And at best," Chen added, "it could force them to question their entire philosophy of conquest." Sometimes, the greatest way to change an enemy is to show them unexpected mercy. Patul was silent for a long moment, her holographic form deep in thought. Finally, she nodded. "Proceed, Admiral. But take every precaution. If this goes wrong, humanity's survival could depend on maintaining our deception." Within hours, the primitive rescue ship Mercy launched from a hidden lunar facility. Its hull was deliberately designed to look crude, all sharp angles and exposed struts that suggested early spacefaring technology. But beneath the carefully crafted exterior lay some of humanity's most advanced systems, disguised to appear far simpler than they were. Captain Maya Patil, no relation to the Council President, studied the dying Nexarian vessel through quantum-enhanced sensors that her ship pretended not to have. The alien craft was beautiful in a predatory way, all swept-back curves and crystalline surfaces that suggested both artistry and lethal intent. But now those perfect surfaces were cracked and dark, and the ship's core was an angry red wound in the quantum spectrum. "Life support is failing in multiple sections," her science officer reported. "I estimate 18 minutes until total core collapse." Maya nodded, her heart pounding beneath her deliberately outdated-looking pressure suit. Everything about their appearance had been carefully calculated. The rescue ship's external lights were slightly too bright and flickered occasionally, suggesting primitive plasma tech rather than the quantum filaments actually producing them. Their communication systems broadcast on easily detected frequencies, while the real quantum entanglement channels remained hidden. "Open a channel," she ordered. "All frequencies, basic audio only. Let's hope their universal translators still work." Static crackled across the speakers, another carefully crafted illusion hiding the crystal clarity of their actual communications. Then a harsh, clicking voice responded in heavily accented Standard English, which their monitoring stations had leaked decades ago to establish their primitive status. "Unknown vessel, this is Commander Zextol of the Imperial Nexarian ship Void's Talon. Our core is critical. We require immediate assistance." Maya took a deep breath. Humanity's first official contact with an alien species would be a lie wrapped in truth, mercy hidden beneath deception. But sometimes the greatest victories came not through strength of arms, but strength of heart. "Commander Zextol, this is Captain Maya Patil of the Earth rescue ship Mercy. Hold on. We're coming to help." The future of human-alien relations would be forever shaped by what happened in the next few hours. And deep beneath the carefully crafted appearance of a young species making its first steps into space, humanity watched and waited, hoping that compassion might succeed where centuries of conflict had failed. The price of that compassion remained to be seen. But as Maya Patil guided her ship toward the dying alien vessel, she couldn't help but feel that this moment, this choice between fear and mercy, would echo across the stars for generations to come. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Nexarian Empire stretched a kilometer into the crystalline spires of Capital Prime, its transparent walls refracting starlight into mesmerizing patterns across the gathered aristocracy. But Supreme Commander Zextol barely noticed the architectural splendor. His attention was fixed on the High Council members looming above him on their elevated platforms, their silver-faceted eyes glinting with barely concealed hostility. "You claim," High Counselor Vexmore's voice dripped with disdain, "that your elite warship was saved by primitives. That these humans, who have barely achieved chemical propulsion, somehow managed to prevent a quantum core collapse." Zextol's facial scales rippled with carefully controlled emotion. 3 months had passed since the impossible rescue in the Sol system, and he had spent every day since preparing for this moment. They succeeded through determination and improvisation, Honored One. Their technology was crude, but their engineers demonstrated remarkable adaptability. And instead of claiming their system for the Empire, another counselor chittered, "You allowed them to simply send you on your way." "They showed mercy to a superior force," Zextol replied, his translator struggling to convey the complex honor implications in his native tongue. "They knew nothing of our empire, yet they risked their lives to save ours." Such actions create a debt that cannot be ignored. The chamber erupted in overlapping waves of agitated clicking. The Nexarian concept of honor debt was fundamental to their society, a complex web of obligations that bound their empire together. But never in their history had they owed such a debt to an inferior species. Hidden beneath the council chamber, in secure rooms, shielded from even quantum surveillance, the true architects of the Empire's military might watch the proceedings with growing concern. General Kexty, Supreme Commander of the Imperial Fleet, turned to his most trusted advisor. "The humans' actions make no logical sense," he hissed. "No species achieves spaceflight without understanding basic power dynamics. They should have either destroyed the Void's Talon or attempted to seize it." Science Director Mexer's scales shifted in a pattern indicating deep thought. "Unless they wished us to know of their mercy. To what end? Consider, if they are truly primitive, they demonstrated remarkable capability in preventing a quantum core collapse. If they are not primitive..." She left the implication hanging. Kexty's primary heart quickened. "You believe they deliberately appeared vulnerable?" "I believe, Supreme Commander, that we must consider all possibilities. Our long-range scans of Sol system showed no signs of advanced civilization. Yet this rescue was executed with precision that suggests experience." Kexty finished. "Organization. Purpose." Above them, the council chamber continued to roil with debate. The implications of Zextel's report reached far beyond a single rescue. If word spread that the mighty Nexarian Empire owed a life debt to a primitive species, it could destabilize their carefully maintained image of superiority. Some counselors were already calling for an immediate invasion of Sol system to erase the embarrassment. But Kexty's instincts, honed over centuries of warfare, urged caution. Something about this situation felt wrong, like the stillness before an ambush. Meanwhile, across 20 light-years of space, humanity continued its elaborate deception. The rescue had gone perfectly, almost too perfectly. The Nexarians had been so focused on the seemingly primitive aspects of the Mercy's design that they'd never noticed the quantum sensors mapping every detail of their ship's technology, or the nanoscale probes that had infiltrated their computer systems during the core stabilization process. Admiral Helena Chen studied the latest intelligence reports in her lunar office. The quantum entanglement feeds from their deep cover monitoring stations painted a complex picture of the political chaos they'd unleashed in the Nexarian Empire. "They're divided on how to respond," her AI assistant summarized. "The traditionalists want to attack immediately to save face. The pragmatists worry about the honor debt implications, and a small but growing faction is beginning to question their entire philosophy of technological superiority." Chen smiled. It was proceeding exactly as they'd hoped. "And their military leadership. General Kexty has ordered a full review of all scans taken during the rescue. He suspects deception, but can't prove anything. Their sensors simply aren't sophisticated enough to have detected our true capabilities. And the nanoprobes, completely undetected. They've mapped roughly 60% of the Nexarian military network. At current rates, we'll have full strategic penetration within 8 months." Chen leaned back, considering the elaborate web they'd woven. The rescue had been a calculated risk, but it was already paying dividends beyond their expectations. The Nexarians' rigid honor code and cultural superiority complex had been turned into weapons against them, while they paralyzed themselves with philosophical debates about the implications of being saved by primitives. Humanity's true capabilities remained hidden, growing stronger each day. "What's the status of Phase 2? She asked. "The civilian trading ships are ready. All technological elements have been carefully degraded to match our established primitive appearance. The first contact protocols are prepared." Chen nodded. The next stage would be even more delicate, establishing limited trade relations while maintaining the illusion of technological inferiority. Each interaction would be an opportunity to gather more intelligence, to plant more seeds of doubt in the Nexarian worldview. "Proceed as planned," she ordered. but maintain heightened alert status. The moment any Nexarian ship appears in our sensor range, I want to know about it." As her eye acknowledged the command, Chen found herself reflecting on the strange path they'd chosen. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for first contact, expecting it to come through conflict. Instead, they'd initiated it through an act of mercy, albeit one wrapped in layers of deception. But sometimes the most effective weapon wasn't a gun or a bomb. Sometimes it was an idea, planted in fertile ground and carefully tended. The Nexarians were about to learn that lesson, though they didn't know it yet. And by the time they realized how thoroughly humanity had transformed their society, it would be far too late to stop it. The seeds of change had been planted. Now they needed only time to grow. 5 years after the rescue of the Void's Talon, the Nexarian Empire's largest battle fleet ever assembled dropped out of quantum space at the edge of the Sol system. 300 warships, their crystalline hulls gleaming with deadly purpose, moved into attack formation under the command of Supreme General Kexi himself. The general's scaled hands traced patterns in the holographic display as he studied the deceptively peaceful solar system before him. 5 years of careful observation, of watching humans bumble their way into space with their primitive ships and obvious mistakes. 5 years of trade negotiations that seemed almost painfully naive. 5 years of gathering evidence that had finally convinced the High Council to act. "Status report," he commanded. "No signs of advanced detection systems, Supreme General," his sensor officer reported. "Their orbital stations remain unchanged, basic radio transmissions only. Their solar system defense grid appears to consist entirely of chemical rockets and primitive kinetic weapons." Kexti's secondary hearts clenched with anticipation. After 5 years of watching, of gathering intelligence, he had finally convinced the High Council that the humans were hiding something. The rescue of the Void's Talon had been too perfect, their subsequent technological development too convenient. Every trade interaction, every diplomatic exchange had felt choreographed, like moves in some grand deception. "Begin the approach," he ordered. "Maintain quantum stealth until we reach the outer asteroid belt." The massive fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their advanced drives leaving no trace in normal space. According to their intelligence, human sensor technology was barely able to detect ships in their own orbit. The notion that they could detect quantum-cloaked vessels was laughable, which was why the transmission that cut through their command frequencies struck like a physical blow. "Nexarian Battle Fleet, this is Admiral Helena Chen of the Terran Defense Force. You are entering restricted space. Hold position and state your intentions." Kexti's scales rippled in shock as his tactical officer scrambled to respond. "Impossible. They can't have detected us through quantum stealth." "Oh, we detected you the moment you entered the system." Chen's voice carried a note of almost maternal amusement. "Just as we've been detecting your surveillance ships for the past 5 years. Did you really think those trade negotiations were random?" The general's blood ran cold as holographic displays suddenly flickered and changed around him. The seemingly empty space ahead was suddenly filled with energy signatures, thousands of them, emerging from what his sensors insisted was empty void. "Quantum phase shifting," his science officer whispered in horror. "Their entire defense fleet exists slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. That's why we never detected them." "A rather basic application of quantum mechanics," Chen continued, and now there was steel beneath the amusement. "One of many technologies we've developed while maintaining our primitive appearance. Would you like to see some others?" Before Kexti could respond, new signatures appeared, launching from Earth, from Mars, from stations that had seemed harmless moments before. But these weren't the crude chemical rockets his intelligence had reported. These were something else entirely. "Your bio readings suggest considerable stress, General Kexti," Chen observed. "Perhaps you should take a moment to fully appreciate your tactical situation." The general's tactical displays were going mad as they tried to analyze the human vessels now surrounding his fleet. Their hulls seemed to ripple and shift, organic patterns flowing across surfaces that somehow absorbed every scan he threw at them. "What are you?" he demanded. We are humanity, Chen replied simply. We are what happens when a species dedicates itself to advancement rather than conquest. Your empire has spent millennia perfecting the art of war. We chose a different path, the integration of organic and mechanical, the synthesis of multiple scientific disciplines into something entirely new. As if to demonstrate her point, several human ships simply phased through his fleet's formation, their quantum-shifted forms passing through solid matter like ghosts. His weapons officers reported targeting systems failing, quantum communication networks being systematically dismantled by forces they couldn't even detect. The rescue of the Void's Talon wasn't luck or primitive ingenuity, Chen continued. It was a calculated decision. We needed to understand how you would react to mercy from a supposedly inferior species. Your response told us everything we needed to know about your civilization, its strengths, its weaknesses, and most importantly, its capacity for change. Kexti's primary heart nearly stopped as he realized the full implications. The trade agreements, the technology exchanges, were exactly what they appeared to be: simple, primitive technologies that posed no threat to your empire. But they allowed us to study you up close, to plant quantum-entangled monitoring devices throughout your key military installations. Your entire defense network has been compromised for years, General. We know every move you plan to make here today. The General's tactical displays continued to deteriorate as human ships systematically disabled his fleet's offensive capabilities without firing a single traditional weapon. Their biomechanical vessels seemed to adapt to each countermeasure his engineers attempted, becoming more efficient with each passing moment. Why reveal yourselves now? He managed to ask. Because your empire stands at a crossroads, Chen replied. The seeds we planted 5 years ago have grown. The philosophical debate our mercy sparked has spread throughout your society. There are those among your people who begin to question the old ways, to wonder if there might be paths to greatness other than conquest. Kexti's scales shifted in patterns of confusion and dawning understanding. The reform movement, the calls for diplomatic solutions, you engineered all of it. We showed you mercy when you expected destruction. We offered friendship when you anticipated submission. Every action we took was designed to create cognitive dissonance in your society, to force you to question assumptions you've held for millennia. And now, General Kexti, you face a choice. The Admiral's voice grew softer, almost gentle. You can order your fleet to attack. We will defend ourselves, and the galaxy will witness the fall of the mighty Nexarian Empire. Or you can choose another path, one that your people have already begun to walk without realizing it. Kexti stared at the tactical displays, at the overwhelming force arrayed against him, hidden in plain sight all these years. Everything he thought he knew about humanity had been carefully constructed illusion. Every certainty about his empire's technological superiority had been systematically dismantled. And yet they still hadn't fired a single shot. The general closed his primary eyes, remembering ancient teachings about honor and debt. Perhaps he realized true strength lay not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to know when not to. Admiral Chen, he said finally, his translator struggling to convey the complex harmonics of formal surrender in his native tongue. The Nexarian Empire would like to open diplomatic negotiations. And in that moment, as humanity's true nature was finally revealed, the galaxy trembled, not in fear of their power, but in awe of their patience, their planning, and their unwavering dedication to changing the universe not through force, but through understanding. The news of the Nexarian Empire's peaceful surrender spread across the galaxy like a quantum shockwave. Species that had lived in fear of Nexarian expansion for generations watched in stunned silence as the mighty warrior race began dismantling its weapons of war. But it was the reason for their surrender that truly shook the foundations of galactic society. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Conclave, representatives from 100 spacefaring civilizations gathered to witness something unprecedented: the joint address of Supreme General Kexti and Admiral Helena Chen. The chamber, carved from the living crystal of a hollow asteroid, hummed with translation fields as beings of all forms struggled to comprehend the shift in power they were witnessing. Kexti stood proudly at the podium, his scales gleaming under the starlight that filtered through the chamber's transparent dome. For 10,000 years, the Nexarian Empire measured strength through conquest. We believed that power flowed from the ability to destroy, to dominate, to strike fear into the hearts of our enemies. His secondary eyes turned to Admiral Chen, who stood beside him in a simple dress uniform that somehow commanded more attention than the ornate battle armor of the other military leaders present. "We were wrong," Kexti continued. "True power, we have learned, lies not in the weapons we wield, but in the choices we make. The humans proved this not through force of arms, but through the strategic application of mercy." A murmur ran through the assembled representatives. Many had dismissed the initial reports as propaganda or exaggeration. The idea that humanity, a species unknown until a few years ago, had managed to completely outmaneuver the Nexarian Empire seemed impossible. Admiral Chen stepped forward, her presence somehow filling the vast chamber despite her small size compared to many of the alien representatives. "We chose to reveal ourselves today not to boast of our victory, but to extend an invitation. The galaxy stands at a crossroads, much as the Nexarian Empire did 5 years ago when we first showed them mercy." Holographic displays materialized throughout the chamber, showing the remarkable transformation already underway in Nexarian society. Military shipyards being converted to research centers, warrior academies becoming universities of science and philosophy, the feared Imperial fleet now leading humanitarian missions to worlds they once would have conquered. "Some of you may wonder why we maintained our deception for so long," Chen continued. "Why we chose to appear primitive when we could have emerged as a major power years ago. The answer lies in understanding that true change cannot be forced. It must grow from within." She gestured to the displays, which now showed the early interactions between humans and Nexarians. The rescue, the trade missions, the carefully orchestrated exchanges that had planted the seeds of transformation. "We could have defeated the Nexarian Empire through force," she acknowledged. "Our technology, our biomechanical synthesis, our understanding of quantum physics, all of these gave us military superiority. But victory through violence only perpetuates cycles of revenge and hatred. We chose a harder path, victory through understanding." In the upper tiers of the chamber, the Gyrex delegation shifted uncomfortably. Their own empire had been expanding rapidly, following the Nexarian model of conquest. Now their archenemies had not only surrendered but were advocating for a completely different approach to civilization. "Your ways are weak," the Gyrex ambassador clicked through his translator. "You speak of mercy and understanding, but these are the words of those who fear true combat." Admiral Chen smiled, and somehow that simple expression carried more weight than any threat. "Tell me, Ambassador, how many ships did your long-range sensors detect when you entered this system?" The Gyrex's carapace rippled in confusion. 327 vessels of various sizes, primarily around this station. "And how many ships are actually present?" Before the ambassador could respond, the quantum fabric of space seemed to ripple. Suddenly, the holographic displays showed the true scope of humanity's presence. Thousands of biomechanical vessels phased just slightly out of normal spacetime, surrounding the station in a three-dimensional web of power that had been completely invisible to conventional sensors. "Strength takes many forms," Chen continued calmly as the chamber erupted in shocked whispers. "The ability to destroy is one kind of power, but the willingness to show mercy when you hold that power, that is strength of a higher order." She turned to address the entire assembly. Humanity spent centuries preparing for first contact, watching the galaxy tear itself apart with endless wars and conquests. We could have emerged as conquerors ourselves, forcing our will upon you all. Instead, we chose to demonstrate a different path. The displays shifted again, showing the scientific and cultural achievements that had flourished in the regions where Nexarian influence had transformed from military occupation to cultural exchange. Look at what has been accomplished in just 5 years of choosing cooperation over conflict, Chen urged. Imagine what we could achieve together if we all chose to walk this path. The universe is vast, and its mysteries endless. Why waste our potential fighting among ourselves when we could be exploring those mysteries together? In the silence that followed, even the most militant species found themselves considering her words. The evidence was undeniable. Humanity possessed technology beyond anything they had seen, military power that could have dominated the galaxy. Yet they had chosen to reveal themselves not through conquest, but through an act of mercy that had transformed their greatest potential enemy into an ally. Supreme General Kexti stepped forward again, his scales shifting in patterns that the translator rendered as deep conviction. My people were wrong for millennia, believing that conquest was the only path to greatness. Humanity showed us another way, not through force, but through wisdom. They defeated us utterly without firing a single shot, transformed our society without shedding a drop of blood. That is true power. As the assembly digested these words, Admiral Chen made her final offer. The choice now lies before you all. Humanity and the reformed Nexarian Empire extend an invitation to join us in building something new. An alliance based not on fear or domination, but on mutual growth and discovery. The path of mercy is not always easy, but its rewards echo across generations. The chamber filled with the overlapping sounds of 100 species debating, arguing, considering. But in that moment, watching the mighty Nexarian Empire stand as equals with the humans they had once planned to conquer, even the most hardened warriors began to wonder if perhaps there was wisdom in this strange new path. The echoes of mercy, it seemed, could reach even the darkest corners of the galaxy. And in those echoes lay the seeds of a transformation that would reshape civilization itself. 20 years after humanity's revelation to the galaxy, the Sol system hosted a gathering unprecedented in galactic history. Ships of every known species moved through the quantum-regulated spaces around Earth's orbital rings, their designs as varied as the civilizations that created them. But what truly marked this moment as extraordinary was not their presence, but their purpose. The Academy of Unified Sciences was opening its doors. From her office in the Academy's central spire, Admiral Helena Chen, now retired and serving as the Academy's first director, watched vessels dock with the massive station. The structure itself was a testament to the changes of the past 2 decades. A seamless blend of human biomechanical engineering, Nexarian crystal architecture, and contributions from 24 other species. The last delegation has arrived, her AI assistant reported. The Jurex Empire's research team is requesting permission to dock. Chen smiled at the irony. The Jurex, once among the most militant critics of humanity's approach, had been among the first to witness its benefits. Their expertise in biological computing had proven remarkably complementary to human quantum technology, leading to breakthroughs that would have been impossible for either species alone. "Permission granted," she said, turning to face her visitor. "What do you think, old friend?" Supreme General Kexti, also retired, now serving as the Academy's co-director, shifted his scales in a pattern of deep satisfaction. 20 years ago, I led the largest battle fleet in Nexarian history to conquer your world. Today, I help welcome students from across the galaxy to learn together. The universe, it seems, has a sense of humor. And of justice, Chen added, watching a group of young Nexarian scientists guide their Jurex colleagues through the station's quantum field harmonization protocols. Though I doubt either of us imagined this particular outcome, their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime, a reminder that the opening ceremony would begin soon. As they made their way through the station's crystalline corridors, they passed learning spaces where beings from dozens of species worked together, sharing knowledge that had been jealously guarded just 2 decades ago. The main auditorium was a marvel of engineering that would have been impossible before the Great Collaboration. Quantum field generators allowed species from radically different environments to occupy the same space comfortably. Translation fields had evolved far beyond simple language conversion, now conveying cultural context and emotional nuance across species boundaries. As Chen took the podium, she faced an audience that represented the fulfillment of humanity's longest-held dreams and their greatest gamble. 20 years ago, she began, we faced a choice that every advanced civilization eventually encounters. We had developed technology that could have made us the dominant force in the galaxy. We could have emerged as conquerors, imposing our will through superior firepower and technological advancement. The holographic displays around the auditorium showed scenes from that crucial moment: the Nexarian fleet's arrival, the revelation of humanity's true capabilities, and most importantly, the choice to show mercy rather than exercise power. Instead, we chose a harder path. We demonstrated that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to nurture growth. We proved that the most powerful force in the universe is not quantum weapons or biomechanical ships, but understanding. She gestured to the gathered audience, where former enemies now sat side by side as colleagues and friends. Look around you. Every being in this room represents a choice, not just humanity's choice to show mercy, but each civilization's choice to accept the hand of friendship, even when war might have seemed easier. The displays shifted to show the transformations of the past 20 years. The former Nexarian military academies, now centers of philosophical and scientific learning. The Jirex biological computing centers, once used to design weapons, now developing cures for diseases that had plagued multiple species. Former warships converted into exploration vessels, pushing the boundaries of known space. This academy, Chen continued, represents more than just a place of learning. It is a testament to what becomes possible when we choose to view different perspectives not as threats, but as opportunities. When we recognize that true power lies not in dominating others, but in helping them grow. Kexti joined her at the podium, his scales shifting in patterns that the advanced translators rendered as profound emotion. 20 years ago, I thought I understood power. I commanded the mightiest fleet my people had ever built. But true power, I learned, lies not in the ships we command or the weapons we wield. It lies in the choices we make and the legacy we leave. Together, they activated the final display, a real-time view of the galaxy, showing the network of cooperation and exchange that had replaced the old paths of conquest and domination. Points of light represented joint research stations, cultural exchange centers, and exploration missions crewed by multiple species working in harmony. The legacy of two choices, Chen concluded, one to show mercy and one to accept it, has reshaped our galaxy. But this is only the beginning. The universe holds mysteries we are only beginning to understand, challenges that no single species could hope to overcome alone. Together, though, there is no limit to what we might achieve. As the ceremony concluded and the gathered beings broke into excited discussion about the collaborations to come, Chen found herself reflecting on that moment 20 years ago, when humanity had revealed itself to the galaxy. They had gambled everything on the belief that even the most warlike species could change if shown a better path. The Academy stood as living proof that they had been right. In its halls, former enemies became teachers and students, working together to unlock the mysteries of existence. The children of warriors learned to be scholars, and the descendants of conquerors became explorers. And in the quantum-shifted spaces between the stars, the echoes of those two choices, to show mercy and to accept it, continued to ripple outward, transforming everything they touched. Humanity had proven that the greatest power in the universe was not the ability to destroy, but the wisdom to know when not to.